well-wishers, and welcome to my channel Aspiring Minds. In today's video, we are going to discuss a poem, A Prayer for My Daughter, written by WB Yeats. So grab your virtual seats and let's begin. You must be wondering how has suddenly the locale shifted from England to Ireland. That is because William Butler Yeats was an Irish poet and he was one of the most important figures of the 20th century. He was a key figure in the Irish literary movement. He was the co-founder of the Abbey Theatre. His poetry often explores themes about Ireland and the cyclical nature of life. Naturally, a place where you are born and brought up is the place that you've spent most of your time, and you're going to have a lot of experiences to share, which WB Yeats also had, and he does it through his poems. A Prayer for My Daughter was written in the year 1919 when WB Yeats became a father to a daughter named Anne. The poem reflects on his concerns about the times in which the daughter has been born in Ireland, and he is apprehending about what will happen in the future, particularly for his daughter. It explores the themes of beauty, innocence, and the challenges a woman might face in a world which is full of political disturbance and changes which are constantly occurring in the society. The central message of the poem revolves around the poet's hopes and fears for his daughter. He contemplates or thinks about the world his daughter will grow up in, expressing a desire for her to have inner values, virtues, and qualities rather than focusing on external or outward beauty. The poem also deals with the poet's thoughts on the impact of social values on individuals and the importance of inculcating or providing the children with tradition and ceremony. That is something which our parents also want us to have. We should be the ones who carry the legacy of the family ahead. We should imbibe good values of the family and we should take it ahead. But I wonder how much of it happens, because in today's times, as far as I can see, I'm very sorry to say this, but the whole family system has collapsed. People do not want to even stay with their family. They want to lead a life alone. So you can well imagine Yeats' concern to be completely true. So let us now begin decoding the line-by-line meaning of each stanza. In stanza 1, the poet says, "Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under this cradle hood and coverlid my child sleeps on. There's no obstacle but Gregory's woods and one bare hill whereby the haystack and the roof leveling wind bred on the Atlantic can be stayed. And for an hour I have walked and prayed because of the great gloom that is in my mind." So here the poet describes a stormy night as his little daughter sleeps peacefully in her cradle. The only obstacle over here is a wood or a forest named Gregory's, and there's one hill standing alone. But there is a constant wind that is blowing from the Atlantic, and this wind seems to be another obstacle. The poet has walked and prayed for an hour due to the dark thoughts that have been troubling his mind. So you could say that stanza 1 is a kind of a setting to the poem where he's describing the scene. It's a stormy night. There is a forest cover, there is one hill, and he's walking on and off in this place where cold wind is blowing, and he's praying because his mind is troubled with sad, dark, gloomy thoughts. Stanza 2, he says, "I have walked and prayed for this young child an hour, and heard the sea wind scream upon the tower, and under the arches of the bridge, and scream in the elms above the flooded stream, imagining in excited reverie that the future years had come, dancing to a frenzied drum." Frenzied means a crazy sound. out of the murderous innocence of the sea. Over here, the poet continues to reflect on his prayer for his daughter. He is describing the stormy scene over here. He hears the wind screaming upon a tower and under a bridge, imagining the future years as if the future years are emerging from a tumultuous, a disturbingly dangerous sea. You can imagine a sea where a situation where there's a storm waging, and you can imagine the condition of the sea. It will be, the water will be in so much of disturbance. So he's saying that from this disturbance, this disturbed state, what is going to arise? The future years. So he is kind of, through nature and natural imagery, trying to tell us about the future, which is going to be full of stormy thoughts. It's going to bring with it a lot of disturbance. In stanza 3, we see the attention now shifting fully to the daughter. May she be granted beauty, and yet not beauty to make a stranger's eye distraught, or hers before a looking glass. For such, being made beautiful over much, consider beauty a sufficient end. Lose natural kindness, and maybe the heart-revealing intimacy that chooses right and never find a friend. So beautifully he's putting it, I'll tell you. Over here, basically the poet prays for his daughter to be granted with beauty, yes, because it's necessary for a girl, but not in excess. Why? Because he hopes that her beauty should not be a kind of distraction for others, or she should not be spending hours and hours just looking at herself, gazing at herself in front of a mirror, because he's saying that this outward appearance is of no use. Excessive beauty, he suggests, what will happen? It will lead to a lack of natural kindness and intimacy, because wrong people will be attracted to just her outward appearance, and at the same time her own ability to find people will be lost. She too will be preoccupied with unnecessary things, and ultimately her ability to choose right and genuine friendships would be lost. So you see how he says that beauty should be granted to the daughter, yes, but in moderation. Stanza 4, he gives the example of Helen. He says that Helen, being chosen, found life flat and dull, and later had much trouble from a fool, while that great queen that rose out of the spray, being fatherless, could have her way, yet chose a brandy-legged smith for a man. It's certain that fine women eat a crazy salad with their meat, whereby the horn of plenty is undone. I'll tell you what it is. So basically over here, the poet is giving examples of women from mythology. He gives the first example of Helen, who is known for her beauty, found life to be extremely dull and faced trouble because of her beauty. I told you in the last stanza, he highlighted why if you are only beautiful on the outer side, you are going to just attract any random, weird kind of people around you. In contrast, he says that a queen, despite having multiple choices, chose a humble man. And what kind of a man did a queen choose? She chose a brandy-legged smith for man. So the poet over here criticizes the tendency of beautiful women to complicate their lives, comparing their life to eating a crazy salad that disrupts the horn of plenty. That is a symbol of abundance, that even if you have plenty of choices, you restrict yourself to maybe a random salad when you want to go out. I have seen this when I go out with my friends. They try to say they are diet conscious, and they'll order that Caesar salad and whatnot, and whereas there are such other lovely cuisines that you can try and you can eat, but they are choosing that. So technically, if you're going out, nothing's going to be healthy. So that is exactly what Yeats is also saying, that if you're beautiful, your eyes, your mind, your thinking is going to be clouded, and you will tend to end up making wrong choices because of the people who will be there around you. So just because you're beautiful as a woman, I'm saying that doesn't mean you need a good looking man. Because again, people will laugh, my friends, who, if they hear this, that if you have people who are good on the outer level, they may not be good as human beings. This I have observed in general. This is a completely subjective opinion, don't take me seriously on this, but that is completely true. In stanza 5, he says, in courtesy I'd have her chiefly learned, hearts are not had as a gift, but hearts are earned. What a beautiful line it is. By those that are not entirely beautiful, yet many that have played the fool for beauty's very self, has charm made wise. So basically, over here, the poet wishes for his daughter to be educated and to have a very kind, appealing, and courteous personality. She should be kind and humble when she meets everyone. He emphasizes that hearts are not given but earned. No matter how much wealth you have, remember, my dear viewers, you can never buy a person's time, attention, heart with money. So that's what Yeats is also suggesting about in this poem, that you cannot get a heart, you need to earn it, especially by those that are not entirely beautiful. He acknowledges the charm of those who have played the fool for beauty's sake, and notes that even a poor man, when loved, finds it difficult to look away from genuine kindness. Whether you are beautiful, whether you are whatever, whether you are rich, poor, whatever it is, you will always be able to understand who is genuine and who is not. So that is what the poet wants. He wants his daughter to become a person who understands people, who is understanding, and who has the real wisdom to understand the correct people for her, and accordingly she should be able to lead her life. See how a father gives another blessing. May she become a flourishing hidden tree, that all her thoughts may be like the linnet bee, and have no business but dispensing round their magnanimities of sound, nor but in merriment begin a chase, nor but in merriment a quarrel. Oh, may she live like some green laurel, rooted in one dear perpetual place. Here the poet wishes for his daughter to be like a flourishing, hidden, beautiful looking tree. He hopes for her thoughts to be like the melodious song of a linnet. Just as when you hear the song of a linnet singing, it fills you with a lot of peace and calmness. That's what he wants his daughter to be like. When she talks, the people should feel that sense of calmness in her voice. Her only business should be to spread kindness through her words. She should engage in having fun rather than trying to create fights and conflicts among people. He envisions her life similar to a green laurel rooted in a dear and perpetual place. My mind, because the minds that I have loved, the sort of beauty that I have approved, prosper but little, has dried up of late, yet knows that to be choked with hate may well be of all evil chances chief. If there's no hatred in a mind, assault and a battery of the wind can never tear the linnet from the leaf. So here the poet reflects on his own mind. He states that the kind of beauty he appreciates has not prospered much in recent times, because in today's times people have become more concerned with outward beauty. And is it not true in our case also, my dear viewers? We are all running behind. It's not just the women but even the men. The men have all those charcoal typical face wash that they have to use to get a pollution free, dust free skin. Women have so many brands. You've got Mama Earth, Nykaa and whatnot. So even in today's times, we are running behind outward looks and beauty. But the poet over here says that despite this, he understands that being filled with hatred is the worst thing that can happen. He uses the example of the wind which tries to torture a linnet which is sitting on a leaf to emphasize that without hatred, the mind remains resilient. See, little bit of hatred is good because then you also realize what are the things you need to work on in your personality, in your being, but at the same time, you need to attract positive and good vibes in your lives. And intellectual hatred is the worst. So let her think opinions are accursed. Have I not seen the loveliest women born out of the mouth of plenty's horn? Because of her opinionated mind, barter that horn, and every good by quiet nature's understood for an old bellows full of angry wind. Here the poet warns against intellectual hatred. He is urging his daughter to see opinions as accursed. You should not form opinions based on intellect. This is completely true, my dear viewers, because I have seen that there are some people who have intellect, okay, but still they misuse it, or they don't understand. They think that they get or develop a kind of a superiority complex just because they are literate. They think that they should not interact with people who are less educated or less qualified than them, because they think that it'll reduce or lessen their value. But I have seen among the people around me, a person may not be well qualified, but he or she may still have the best wisdom, the best advice for you. So that is why the poet is saying that you should not develop an intellectual hatred. He recalls over here a woman born from plenty's horn, symbolizing abundance, who due to her opinionated mind traded all her blessings for old bellows full of angry wind, representing emptiness and discord. That is, if you continuously form opinions in your mind, you are going to be surrounded by shallow, empty people. Please surround yourself with the correct people in order to grow and prosper in your life. And that is exactly the advice that Yeats has through his prayer for his daughter. Considering that all hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence and learns at last that it is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will, she can, though every face should scowl and every windy quarter howl, or every bellows burst, be happy still. Here the poet suggests that without hatred, the soul regains innocence and realizes that it is self-sufficient, it is self-affirming. You do not need always the hatred of others to know your worth. You can still know your worth, your self-sufficiency, if you are innocent. The soul's own sweet will align with heaven's will. If you keep doing good, you do not need to turn evil just because people around you are telling you to be corrupt or behave in a certain way. You still need to hold on to your values, your qualities that are there in you, so that you can move ahead in life. Because it happened with me when I too had to take a drastic decision in my life. I was in a system of education where I was not liking the way as a teacher I was being molded, and I felt like I'm losing my own self, or I'm losing my own sense of values, because I'm not a person who will bow down or stoop down. I knew that I have my knowledge intact, and see, I have found a way of spreading it not just to a select students, but I can now share it with the world. My knowledge is free to be used by anyone in the world, right? So that is what the poet is trying to say, that God and heaven is also going to realign themselves with you when they see that you are genuine, and this in turn will allow individuals to find happiness even if they are getting disapproval from others. Even in my case, some people may not like what I'm doing of sharing my knowledge like this on YouTube, but I feel this is the best way, because I'm not just reachable to a few selected students, but anyone, any part of the world can see and learn from these videos, right? So I know it is giving me my satisfaction, my happiness and peace, and I have stopped caring about what the world will think. Finally, in stanza 10, he says, "And may her bridegroom bring her to a house where all's accustomed, ceremonious, for arrogance and hatred are the wares peddled in the thoroughfares. How but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty born? Ceremony is a name for the rich horn, and custom for the spreading laurel tree. So over here the poet hopes that his daughter's future husband will bring her to a house where customs and ceremonies are observed, traditions are valued. He warns against the wares of arrogance and hatred which are sold in the streets. He says in the final lines of the poem that tradition and ceremony are necessary because these are the two aspects that give birth to genuineness, innocence, and beauty. And with ceremony, the rich horn is represented, and custom symbolizes spreading the laurel tree. That is, when you are following these two aspects of ceremony and customs, you are going to invite innocence and true beauty, not just on an external or outward level, but beauty on an inner level. We can understand the themes of the poem on 4 levels. Firstly, the poem conveys the poet's deep concern for his daughter's future, reflecting the universal theme of worry that is there in every parent and hope for the well-being of a child. Secondly, we see Yeats explores the dangers of excessive outward beauty, emphasizing the need for a balance that preserves inner values, virtues, and kindness. Thirdly, we see the poem discussing the impact of social and societal values and opinions on individuals, and the poem cautions against being aware of all these opinionated minded people. You need to stay away from people who form opinions, because it is not their business to know what's going on in your life and why you are doing what you're doing, right? And fourthly, the poem tells us to have virtues like innocence and tradition, presenting them as essential for flourishing beauty and goodness. So we see how through this poem Yeats combines his personal emotions with broader societal concerns, creating a thought-provoking poem that is above the immediate context. Imagine, I was constantly able to give you examples from our lives, what is going on currently all around us, what kind of system is afloat based on that. So you can see how relevant a poem he had written in those times in 1919. So that's it from this video. I hope you liked it. Do hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel for more such future updates. Thank you for watching. Bye.